I identified as queer, I identified as a lesbian. And before I identified as lesbian, I identified as a greedy bisexual. And it was actually really easy to be a greedy bisexual in college because I went to college at this school where the women were all phenomenal and the men were all like really amazing too. They were smart, sensitive, artistic, feminist, gender non-conforming guys, and it was really easy to want to fuck them all. So I did, which was great. And then I got a job after graduation and moved to Los Angeles. Wow. Thank you for your sympathy. Yeah, the job was actually, I was a PA, a production assistant on a 1-hour family drama on the WB. Yeah. So listen for clues, you'll probably be able to figure out the show. It was a really dreadful job, and for those of you who don't know, production assistant is basically a peon, a grunt, a moot. A worthless human being that's entire purpose is just to service the needs of teenage prima donnas and their stage mothers, and make lots of copies. I made lots of copies. My children are probably gonna come out toner colored. So that was the job that brought me out there, and Los Angeles was difficult. It was the kind of place that like single-handedly tried to bestow on me an eating disorder whenever I left my house. It was trying to break me down so hard that I couldn't even leave my apartment. And to be perfectly fair, it wasn't that I was just living and working in Los Angeles, it was that I was working in Hollywood and living on the Sunset Strip. Yeah, thank you. I love it. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. When I moved into this apartment, my roommate Jill, she brought me to the window and she pointed down to the sidewalk across from us and said, "That's where River died." I lived across the street from the Viper Room, which sounds really like LA glamorous until you actually, have to try and get home in 5 hours after the Lakers have won. Or basically have to deal with trying to buy tampons and Ben & Jerry's at midnight and running into Anthony Kiedis and groupies. Not classy, really awkward actually. So that was my life on the Sunset Strip, and my roommate was a total party girl. She loved to go up and down the strip, and she basically dated and slept with pretty much all the bartenders, which meant that we got free drinks all the time. And even though I hated partying on the strip, it was my neighborhood, and it was free, and therefore, okay. And of course, the time that I was in Los Angeles for this first 7 months, I was working on this really stressful job and I wasn't getting laid. I went from like bountiful, queer, pan fabulousness in Ohio to dry as a desert in Los Angeles. And it's mostly because the women wouldn't sleep with me because I was bisexual and therefore a cocksucker. Oh. And the men wouldn't sleep with me, well, they would, but I thought they were disgusting. For all sorts of reasons. My favorite was that I would go to these bars and these were like total strangers, right? And these guys would be immediately telling me how I should wear tighter jeans, or if I wanted to make it in the industry, I could just totally lose 15 pounds. And I'm like, I'm not even trying to make it in the industry. Do you just see blonde hair and big boobs and not naturally assume that that's what I'm here for? It was gross, so gross. So I didn't get laid for a really long time, and then I was starting to get to this point where I'm like, I need to. It was getting to be problematic. So I did what most normal people do when they need to get laid. I lowered my standards. So Jill invited me out one night, and I just put on the tightest shirt and the shortest skirt and the highest heels that I owned. And we went to a club called Rumor was Hugh Hefner was going to be there, and he was, along with his blonde entourage. And most of the people, I just coined that, by the way, just now. That was amazing. That was amazing. Go me. Okay, sorry. Moving on. Don't time keep that part. Okay. So everybody was trying to get Hugh's attention the entire time, and I was just trying to get the bartender's attention the entire time, and so I had a couple of drinks, and I was waiting in this interminable line for the bathroom. And I really think, by the way, that Los Angeles clubs should have 2 bathroom lines, one for cocaine, and one for actually having to pee. Wouldn't that be a great idea? Yeah. Thank you. Take it. Make it happen. I would be so happy. So I'm waiting in this really long line, and then there's a men's room line that's just as long because of cocaine. And the men's room, and there's this guy standing in the men's room line, and he's really handsome, like beautiful. He's this light-skinned black man with these really light eyes and these big mauve lips and these long, perfect dreadlocks. And I'm just like, oh God. Oh God. Yeah. And we start chatting, and he's smart and funny and kind, and I'm like, I gotta lock this down. Yeah. So we have a good chat, and then Jill decides she wants to go to another club that's actually catty corner to where we live. Perfect. It's called, what's it called? Saddle Ranch. Anybody been to Saddle Ranch before? It's a dive bar, in that all the bartenders wear plaid. I'm from Ohio. A dive bar is only a dive bar if there's like peanut shells on the ground and they don't serve anything in glass, so just in case a fight breaks out. That's a dive bar. This was not. So Joe and I, the gentleman, we show up to this place and we start dancing, and it's obviously on, and we have great chemistry, and we're moving together, and we're really well suited for one another, and we're both deep into our cups, and we are in it. And I invited him home with me, and he says yes, but he wanted to stop at his hotel first. He is a cameraman working on a reality show, and they were traveling through. I don't know if that's true. Doesn't matter, don't care. We go to the Mondrian, which is just down the street, and all of his coworkers are there, and we raid the mini fridge, and I try my first LA experience that I shall not name specifically, but I hinted at it earlier in the story, so I'll let your imagination go there. And emboldened by that experience, I was horny, and my ego was amazing, and I decided we have to go home and fuck right now! So we get home, and it starts, and it's phenomenal, and it's that kind of like drunken stranger, good chemistry, like we're just tearing at each other. It's so good. And he's beautiful. He is so beautiful. He lays back and his dreadlocks like splay around the pillow like he's some sort of a sexy lion, and I'm just like, rawr! So nice. And he's got this amazing body, this beautiful cock. I'm just like, it's great. And so we're having a really great time, and I'm actually very excited because I get to enjoy the panorama of my apartment. They had an amazing view of like Hollywood, West Hollywood, and Beverly Hills, and I finally got to see it while getting fucked from behind. It was great. That was my goal, and I totally got it. It was great. So that was great, and it was such great sex because I was like, I couldn't tell whether I should keep my eyes closed because it felt so good, or keep my eyes open because it looked so good, you know? Oh, so good. And it went all night, I think. Because we both woke up the next morning, and he was, face up on the foot of my bed this way, and I was face up at the head of my bed this way, and our legs were still intertwined, and our junk was still lined up, and we're like, we passed out at the same time while we were fucking. I'm like, I guess I can check that one off my bucket list. That was weird. So, anyway, flash forward, drop him off at his hotel, is fine. Flash forward to Monday night, and it's my friend's birthday, and so he wants to go tear it up, and I say yes, and I want to be clear, because my mom tends to watch these videos. Los Angeles gave me a self-esteem problem. It didn't give me a drinking problem. I just want to be really clear distinction between the two. So we got really drunk on a Monday night, and ended up at my friend's place, and it was like 3 a.m. And I'm gonna crash it on his couch, and then I realize that I have the earliest call time of the season the next morning, 5 a.m. I have to be at the office at 5 a.m. It is currently 3:15. And I get sick and I throw up. And then I try and get about 30 minutes of sleep. And I do, and then I drive to the office, and I'm standing at the copier. And again, like the relationship between a PA and a copier is kind of like the Na'vi in Avatar, where they have like a dragon where you kind of lock in, and you're like, So I spent a lot of time at that, at the copier, and I was there, miserable as fuck, still wearing the clothes I was wearing the night before, miniskirt, heels, and a hoodie.
Yeah. No.
And the only other guy at the office at that hour is the lead teamster, and he walks in and he goes, if you're gonna be hungover, you might as well get paid for it. And I say, you know what? I will let you know as soon as the hangover starts. So that's 5 a.m. Flash forward to 9 p.m. I'm still there because our director thinks of himself as an auteur. We've had 3 rounds of rewrites for no reason. I'm a writer. I can tell you the script did not matter. It was a terrible show. It was a terrible show. Anyway, so all the PAs had already come and gone. I was working a double shift. I was there at 9 p.m. still hating the world. And I'm running back and forth, and the fucking director hasn't called the martini shot yet, and I'm ready to kill somebody. So he actually orders more rewrites. Yay! So I have more photocopies to make. So I'm running back and forth between my office and the photocopier. And just for context, our office is a long hallway, bunch of offices, lobby, bathroom, and copier. So I'm walking out of my office and running down the hallway and making copies and then coming back and then bratting and collating and blah, fucking miserable. And as I'm walking back and forth, something happens. Something wrong happens in my body. I seize. It's bad. It's painful, scary. And I'm in the lobby, and I'm like, fuck, what the fuck? Oh my God. And in instinct, I just reach into my panties and into my vagina, and I feel something. And I'm scared. And I kind of can grab it, and I start pulling.
Shit.
And it feels like the inside of my vagina is like turning inside out. I'm pulling, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling, and then a condom.
No!
And I have that exact expression in my head. And I'm horrified and disgusted and kind of amused, but mostly horrified. And then I realize I'm standing in the lobby holding a 3-day-old condom I just fished out of my cunt. And I run. And I run to the bathroom and I throw it in the toilet, and I'm just standing there with this like mad adrenaline rush of like disgust and horror, and everything that's wrong about my life is wrapped up in that little piece of orange latex that's floating in the toilet right now. My job, the way I feel in my body, everything wrong about everything is in that condom, and I decide at that moment, I think I'm going to try and be a lesbian for a little while.